Continuing our national development series by Policy Times on Unleashing India, this is a program on unleashing national growth, getting back past good practices and legacies from the British failed systems. Now, what do we mean by all these aspects of India's national growth versus the British system, which has generally been taken up, and many of them were imposed on us for a different purpose. British began its empire by starting to rule right from the 16th century or so, and came to India and went with full force around 17th century and ruled for 200 years till 1957. Okay. Now, when it ruled, it had its own priorities, it had its own policies, and it had its own way of doing whatever they were doing. Now, when they build the policies, we should know whether we were being done properly and whether the person doing themselves were proper. Let us see a small statement on British rule. British were ruling almost 72 countries, 50% of the world in 1920, but by 1950s, they were all ruling no country. They were all full failures. So from a failed system, we are trying to take 1947, when they quit India, they were almost nothing. In 1957, we were struggling to come up into our knees, and then we started growing. Now, once we have started growing by 1957, we should have rewritten many things which we had taken from the British Empire. Because the British legacy was to leave a legacy in which they wanted to make best of the friends as the worst of the enemies for the country they ruled, divide and rule, which any ruler will do. So it is no use finding any fault with them, because they were ruling us, they had to do it. Otherwise, with the type of small number of people through which they ruled a country like India, they had to do. But we don't want to do that. We want to rule a country. We want to have our rulers who are ruling in a proper way. And first of all, they should not be rulers. First of all, right from many of the designations, terminologies, collectors, commissioners, many of these wordings has to be quite different from what they wanted. They wanted any Britisher coming to be a collector in India, commissioner in India. All those terminologies, I mean, the problem starts from the practice which they had. Okay. So because of that, so many things which they did were more or less for them, not for the country development. Today, when we want to do, today there is no argument in the fact that anybody who is ruling in India are Indians, and they are also going to hold that post only for a very, very short time of their life. Whatever, even the longest serving politician will be having maybe 50% of their life in politics. Remaining 50%, they are all commoners. So same way, average lifetime of a politician itself will be 5 to 10% of their lifespan. So they should all know that in whatever, when I'm saying politician, it not exactly politician, it may be politician, it may be bureaucrats, it may even be a industrialist who is running a big empire. Even any of them have got to change depending on the ground realities. So we need to have good practices which we have to imbibe and come away from the divide and rule philosophy. It can be in legal, where it is all question of accused accuser. It can be in admin, where it is a question of tying everybody's leg together so that we run by the smallest speed. It can be in legal system. We had such a beautiful system called Panchayati Raj. 5 elderly people will sit and govern, and that is the final. There's no question of things going and again coming back to the system. So education has to be education for all, relevant to India, by India, for India, with India. So there's no question of we trying to teach what they thought we were. They never thought of good Indian rulers. They never thought of popularizing, many great things which are done. We never even knew that there are Indian rulers who ruled for 600 years, the same kingdom. But we all are told only about the last few years when we were really at our knees. So we need to have a complete change in our thought. Thought process has to change. Thought process has to change not with an I versus you syndrome. Thought process should change with the view that, yes, if India has to grow, some of the past legacies has to be totally changed and changed for the good of India by Indians and rewritten and remolded so that all the best practices are taken without any because there were policies of Britain which are good for the country, which we should take. There are many which are not so good. We should try to, we know that overnight we cannot change. We should change. Legal, we should try to bring back Panchayati Raj along with whatever systems are there, so that no a legal person who has learned so much should have to retrain himself. There is no need. Only everything will get shortened. There will be no change in the person's growing, person's capability to earn, person's capability to make their international foray, because India is going global. Today, global expectations from India is very high. If you don't change, we should not also fall like a pack of cards like the British did. In 50 years' time, from 7 to 50% ruling country, they were almost negligible ruling country. So which should not happen to India, because we have got much more people to we are governing. We got much more stake because we got 29 countries and our people are there in 230 countries also. 29 states we have got, and so many countries also. Indirectly, we are trying to contribute to their growth. So Indians always would like to make their presence felt. And in this, we should have enough transparency as is required. We should have enough, our judicial accountability has to be good enough for them to give a final thing. Administratively, we should ensure that some of systems which are more of a divide and rule, so no decision get taken, no progress which can be done faster can ever be done because of system. They should all be avoided, and we will have more such series in which we will go into more pertinent places and take India into its leadership role, into the role in which India will be the knowledge capital of the world, but fully self-running and self-growing. Thank you.